Have you considered surveying the volunteers at your nonprofit? Because volunteers aren't always nearby at your organization, it's important to make an effort to learn about their experience to keep them engaged. In today's video, we'll look at how to implement volunteer survey questions at your nonprofit. I'm Raid from Jotform. Let's dive right into it. Volunteers dedicate their time to organizations that they believe in and often aim to conduct work that makes a worthwhile impact. And unsurprisingly, volunteers want to be appreciated for their efforts. So, how do you make volunteers feel appreciated? One way is to gather their feedback on your volunteer program and their experience working with your nonprofit. Using surveys to collect regular feedback from volunteers will help you determine what you're doing right, as well as what could be improved. Even more, providing survey questions that focus on the volunteer's experience will help keep them engaged with the organization. The best feedback surveys keep it simple by posing relevant, easy to answer questions. Start out with a volunteer survey template that supplies a few standard questions, and then customize it to your organization and its volunteers. Let's take a closer look at a few ideas for your volunteer survey questions. Start by evaluating your volunteer application process. Ask volunteers for feedback on their experience signing up for your program. Find out about their application experience, ask what prompted them to apply, how they found you, whether the application was easy or difficult, and if they would recommend you to other volunteers. These questions will establish effective communication with new volunteers and provide you with insight into how to improve volunteer recruitment. Next, you can gauge the quality of your volunteer training. Your training program is the first step towards engaged volunteers. If the training does not give them what they need to succeed, volunteers will lose confidence. They want to learn about the nonprofit, its vision for the community, and how their work fits in. So, ask questions like, did you understand the directions we gave you? How well were you prepared for your volunteer position? Was the training adequate for the task given? Were training materials comprehensive? Did the trainer give clear instructions? These questions can point to gaps in your training process and show volunteers that you value their contributions. Then, try to determine overall satisfaction. Gauging the overall satisfaction of your volunteers and their roles is the single most important factor. Volunteers won't typically spend a lot of time in your office, so you'll need to make an effort to find out whether or not they're satisfied. To do so, ask questions like, how engaged do you feel with our organization? Is our organization providing you with meaningful opportunities? How likely would you be to continue volunteering with our program? If they report that they are likely to continue, ask if they would recommend your nonprofit to a friend. And if they say they aren't likely to continue, ask why and what might change their minds. Make the process simple by allowing them to rate your organization on a scale of 1 to 10. Volunteer satisfaction relies on whether or not a volunteer believes they're making an impact. So ask them to rate how meaningful their work is and if they believe that it has a positive effect. While the answers may be hard to hear, they're essential for keeping your volunteers engaged. Lastly, you should conduct surveys after events. Volunteers tend to be present for specific events, so don't miss the opportunity to ask them for feedback in real time. Ask how helpful the on-site staff was, whether or not they felt welcome, and if they'd volunteer again. Include event-specific topics, like if they felt there were enough people present, or if the venue was appropriate. Questions like these keep volunteers engaged and show that they are appreciated. Conducting volunteer surveys is an effective way to learn more about how volunteers perceive your nonprofit. There are many volunteer survey templates out there, so it's only a matter of customizing them to your organization. Let's go ahead and recap the video. It's essential to keep volunteers engaged, and getting their feedback is a great way to do so. Here's a few ideas for how to use survey questions to improve the volunteer experience. First, evaluate the volunteer application process. Then, gauge the quality of volunteer training. Try to determine overall satisfaction and conduct surveys after events. Thanks for joining us. I'm Raid from Jotform. I'll see you next time.